worries about his recurring panic attacks.
I noticed that since I had the meningitis and since Harvey's recent accident, it's brought back the panic attacks that I hadn't had for nearly 2 years. So I've decided to go and see, from what I've been told, one of the best therapists, and I'm going to address a few issues. Hello there, how are you?
Nice.
Professor Stephen Palmer is an expert in cognitive behavioural therapy.
There's things that I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and as I found I'm not talking about them, I'm just getting more and more out of control with them. For example, I have a problem with drink. I don't need to stop drinking. I need to find a way to start drinking. I won't go anywhere that's alcohol based. The other one is that I've been on medication for quite a few years, but I've been on such a minimal dose now for the last year and a half because I'm scared of coming off it.
Okay, so how much have you been on originally? Then when did you start?
Okay, well my first panic attack, or my first anxiety attack, was in 1998, middle of 1998.
Okay. Quite useful for me to get an idea of some of the issues,
yeah,
and then we'll come back to them, because it sounds as though some of them may be interlinked, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they've got the medication, which it's also tied in with the panic. Anything else I should know about?
There was a lot of violence when I lived in Australia. I had knives pulled at me a lot in clubs. I'd had even a gun put to my head. Put it this way, I had every fear not to go out, so I was always targeted on my own. It happened too many times, to the point that I feared going anywhere that resembled a nightclub. But occasionally you do want to go out, you know. We're young, we're not...
Because as far as I can see how it's started now, and it's like baggage you've been walking around with now.
It has, and I've never resolved it. Got a few problems, I think.
If I can ask you now specifically to think back to when you had your first panic attack.
Don't even know how it happened. Don't know what I was thinking. Started shaking. My heart started beating. I thought I was hyperventilating. Never experienced that before. My hands got clammy. For the next 2.5 to 3 years, I suffered 20 to 30 panic attacks a day, 7 days a week. Each panic attack lasted between 20 and 30 minutes. It was horrific.
That is a very exhausting day after day of it. Were there some days it was a little bit better?
Never.
No,
For the first 3 years, I thought that was the only time ever in my life I thought about suicide. It's the only time.
I think what people don't realise, people think of depression and suicide. They forget actually people with panic attacks actually can feel very suicidal, because it's such an unpleasant thing to feel all the time. You're on edge, you're not relaxing, can't even get to sleep properly for some people.
2 years later, I'm spending 2.5 weeks in a psychiatric ward in New York, and that was my start of the medication. And I know I don't need this medication, I just know it. You know in your body, you know in your mind, if you're fine, I'm fine.
Now, today, you have raised a handful of different issues, but I think they can all be helped by cognitive behaviour therapy. The research would back me up on this, so it's actually very useful for dealing with panic attacks, also for coming off drugs. Surely you want to be master of your own life, of your own destiny. At the moment, you're fearful of it.
Yeah.
You're holding yourself back, and I think if you do trigger a panic attack, you'll learn how to control it very quickly without having to resort back to any medication. That would be I think that would be an ideal goal. Does that make sense to you?
Sounds